Okay, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our on-demand webinar. We're bringing you this content by popular demand. It was held as a Learning Lab talk at ADX Sydney in March, and we had lots of feedback and lots of positive response to this particular webinar that we thought we'll bring it to you as on-demand content, and here it is. I have with me today Sean Pereira, the CTO of Centaur Software, who will be talking to us today on a new approach to AI in the dental space. So welcome, Sean. Thank you for hosting this with me today. I'll hand over to you to kick us off.
Thank you, Kath. And everyone, wherever you are, whenever you are watching this, welcome. So today we are going to talk about AI in a rather different manner. So there is, as you know, there is a lot of hype about AI thanks to ChatGPT back in 2023, making it more of an approachable technology. And today there are so many AI providers, and there is a lot of hype about AI. So what I wanted to talk about is how do we cut through this noise, especially as a practice owner, practice manager. How can we look at what really works for us and just pick that particular AI product for our practice? But before that, the $1.5 trillion question. In 2025, the world spent $1.5 trillion on AI. That's a lot of money. However, only 1 in 4 AI implementations delivered the expected ROI. That is according to an IBM global survey of 2,000 CEOs across 33 countries. So that tells us something. And let's go a bit further. The uncomfortable truth is about 95% of generative AI pilots fail to deliver. And then, according to another survey, 55% of the companies that let go of their staff do now regret having done so. And in 2025, globally, 42% of companies scrapped their AI initiatives entirely. So that is 17% up from the year before. So if AI is so good, why is this happening? So now, with that said, I would like you to think about how many AI subscriptions that you have subscribed to personally or at your practice level that you are barely using. Interesting, isn't it? So let's look at a real life case study. Some of you may have heard about this company, Klarna. It is a $14.6 billion fintech company who started their AI journey with OpenAI in their corner. So that was 2023. So that was when ChatGPT, OpenAI was the market leader and the market disruptor. So with OpenAI in their corner, they replaced 700 staff with AI. And then in early 2024, the CEO got up and celebrated that they answered 2.3 million chats in a month. But over time, quality dropped, complaints rose, and the CEO stood up publicly and said, we focused too much on efficiency and cost. The result was lower quality that wasn't sustainable. So if Klarna, with OpenAI in their corner, couldn't just flip a switch and replace humans, what makes us think a practice with 5-6 staff can? So by mid-2025, Klarna was rehiring humans. But the lesson here is not that AI doesn't work. It's that AI without problem-first strategy creates more problems than it solves. So that brings us to the main topic of today's webinar, problem-first approach to AI, not buying into the hype and understanding what problems we are trying to solve when subscribing to AI. So the fear of missing out factor is massive in AI. Like with any other technology, I'm equally guilty if someone tells me that they have done something with Claude, then I cannot wait to go back to my computer and try that and something even more impressive. So that applies to the entire business and technology world. So 64% of CEOs admitted in a survey that they buy AI before fully understanding the value of AI or that particular AI product. So the fear of falling behind drives their AI spending, not strategy, fear. And there is a prediction made by Gartner, one of the leading tech companies in the world, tech research companies, I must say, that over 40% of agentic AI products that we have today will be cancelled by 2027. And even more alarming is the fact that a research or study done this year found out that only about 130 of thousands of agentic AI vendors, rather claiming to be agentic AI, are legitimately agentic. So the rest is what they call agent washing, rebranding chatbots as agents. I can tell you from direct experience, at Centaur, we receive 2 to 3 integration requests every single week from AI-based dental reception companies alone. Every week, the market is flooded. But here's the thing, AI works when applied right. So there are a few things that we do need to get right. Again, a study found that vendor-led AI or done with the assistance of the vendor, which, I mean, vendor plays a big role, which we will talk about in a few minutes. So there are things that we can apply AI to. And there are things when the objectives are vague or buying something before understanding what you'll be using it for, or not knowing what success looks like, is a recipe for failure. So when AI succeeds, specific, measurable, problem first approach is what you would go for. With this said, with all this taken into account, AI can work, but only with discipline. I'm not anti-AI. I use Claude, ChatGPT, Perplexity, GitHub Copilot, Cursor, Windsurf, you name it, every day. Our business uses Microsoft Copilot, Zoho, Zia, and we integrate with multiple AI providers. We are building our AI strategy as we speak, but every single tool we have adopted so far was to solve a specific problem. That's what I want to give you today, a framework to do the same. This is a framework we built specifically for dental practices navigating AI decisions. It's vendor agnostic. It's not about a specific product. It's about making sure you are solving real problems before you spend real money. Think about this as your, let's say, pre-flight checklist. So we have what we call the SCOPE framework, SCOPE. S for stability check, C for capacity evaluation, O for objective definition, P for practice persona, E for ethics and evaluation. So let's jump into it and see what each one of these stands for. The first one, I call it the document test. If your processes aren't solid, I should say, AI makes them better. So AI basically amplifies what you already do. If your processes are chaotic, AI makes the chaos faster and more expensive. So ask yourself, are your workflows at the practice documented? And does your practice team follow them consistently regardless of who's working? Can you actually quantify the top 3 pain points that your practice is facing in terms of your workflows? So this document test, if it is not written down, AI cannot fix it. Practices that want AI to reduce no-shows sometimes don't even know their no-show rate. So that is a foundations problem, not a technology problem. So another survey by MIT found that number one reason AI projects fail is not because it's bad technology, it's the misalignment between the technology and the business workflows. So fix your foundations first. Second, capacity evaluation. I call this the Tuesday test. If everyone at your practice is an AI champion, then no one is. You need a named person, not a team, a person who will own this at your practice. So the Tuesday test is my reality check. If your practice manager or one of your senior staff cannot carve out 2 hours a week to champion an AI implementation, you don't have the capacity to do it properly. And doing it badly is worse than not doing it at all. Because the budget, AI budget, is beyond just a subscription. Factor in training time, workflow disruption during transition, ongoing maintenance, and staff overtime. So the sticker price is never the real price. So think about this. Can you spare 2 hours every Tuesday for the next 3 months for this implementation, training, and troubleshooting? If not, dare I say, you're not ready. Objective definition. I love this one. The so what test, I call it. So for every problem you identify, ask, what does it cost me in dollars, time, or patient experience? If you cannot quantify it, it's not ready for an AI solution. Here's a real example. A vendor says our AI receptionist answers calls 24/7. But do you really have calls after hours? Do those calls turn into bookings? What is the actual revenue that you're losing? I've seen practices getting AI solutions to cover this very problem, only to find out that the missed call problem is only about 3 to 4 calls a week. That is not an AI problem. That is a voicemail and callback problem. So the so what test is saying this problem causes this impact, costing us approximately this much per this time frame. Let's say smart appointments, or actually no, let's talk about missed voicemails, so voice calls. Let's just go with that example. Let's say missed calls causes us missed booking opportunities, costing us approximately $500 per week. Now you got it quantified. So when you talk to vendors, the so what is a very important question. So watch out for those vanity metrics. Some vendors say we answered 200 more calls. That means nothing to you if they don't turn into booked appointments. So have you tried non-AI solutions first? Sometimes a checklist or a $50 a month scheduling tool solves 80% of the problems. Again, I'm not anti-AI, but I'm giving you another perspective to explore when considering AI solutions. This one, practice persona, that I would say is, if I had to pick one, this would have to be the most important one from a practice point of view. Because your patients choose you for a reason. Maybe it is the warmth of your front desk, your reception staff, maybe the way your team remembers their kid's name, or maybe it's the way your practice manager or treatment coordinator follows up after a big procedure. When you hand your patient communications to an AI agent, what happens to that personality? So it is quite important. So in keeping with the test theme, here's my test. Take an AI generated patient message and read it out aloud. Does it sound like something your reception team would say? If it sounds too generic, your patients will feel the difference. We hear that. We hear that some practice owners saying the patient feedback hadn't been the greatest talking to an AI agent because it didn't represent their practice persona. And also the Office of the Information Commissioner's guidance on AI and privacy specifically flags that AI generated or inferred information about the patients is considered personal information under the Australian privacy principles and must be handled accordingly. So it's not just a brand risk, it's a legal risk unless handled correctly and carefully. So last but not least is ethics and evaluation. So if you ask your vendor, how does it tell me that this patient is 50% at risk of not turning up for their appointment. And your vendor responds and says, oh, it's a proprietary algorithm. So that means you cannot audit how decisions are made about your patients. So that is an alarm bell. And limited time offer. Again, why do they need to give you a limited time offer if their product is solid and they know that their value proposition is worthwhile? And no trial period. Again, that is another alarm bell or red flag, I'd say. If they won't let you test it, what are they hiding? And finally, these are important questions. What happens to your data if you cancel? Can you export it? Are you a hostage to your data, not a customer? Now, the Australian context, the Australian Privacy Act of 1988 and the Australian privacy principles apply to all use of AI involving personal information. Full stop. So from June 2025, there's a new statutory tort for serious privacy invasions. Patients can sue directly and penalties can reach 50 million. So once again, it is not something to be taken lightly when it comes to patient information. So you have a right to know what AI is being used on your patient records and full transparency into how decisions are being made. So that is quite important. So before you buy any AI product, plot the problem it claims to solve on this matrix. So we have frequency and impact. So let's go through each quadrant. So we've got low frequency, high impact. Important, but may not justify an AI investment. And low impact, high frequency. So that would be maybe an opportunity for automation. AI may be a bit of an overkill. And if it is low impact, low frequency, stop wasting your money and attention here. So then we have high frequency and high impact. That is your AI sweet spot. Prioritize these. So let me give you an example. Smart recall automation, high frequency, high impact. Top right, a legitimate AI candidate. AI generated social media posts. Let's be honest. Is content creation really your high frequency, high impact problem? For most practices, it's not even close. Moving right along to the adoption process of AI. Again, this is another test that you can use, the 90-day reality test. So days 1 to 30 is adoption. So in that time, you can see login rates, the application, if the application allows, you can see how many times your practice staff have logged into the application, if they have engaged with the support of that product, how well it has integrated into your workflow, and what the staff is thinking about it. So if adoption at your practice is below 60% at day 30, you have a problem. And that means for whatever the reason, it didn't hit the mark. If it gets to that point and adoption is not at that 60% mark, I would seriously reconsider staying on with that particular AI solution. Now, moving right along to days 31 to 60, that's the effectiveness period. So remember we mentioned before, measuring what you are trying to optimize is one of the keys in this process. So let's say you have got that. You have recorded the baselines. And within that period, 31 to 60 days, compare your baseline metrics to the current performance. Are you seeing movement on the specific KPI you identified before you started? So 1 to 30, you have now adopted the platform. 31 to 60 is where it is starting to make a difference. For example, let's go to voice AI, but please understand I have no problem with voice AIs, AI agents, as long as it works for the practice and as long as it's a true representation. So let's say we had voice AI and we said on a given day, we miss 5 calls, either from being after hours, or the reception staff being on another call, or at lunch, whatever the case may be. Let's say 5. And day 31, I'm not saying that all 5 should have vanished, but it's more about, is it trending in the right direction? Has it gotten down to, let's say, 4, 3? So that is a good test for you at that 60-day mark to see if it is starting to make that difference. And 61 to 90 is the moment of truth. Show me the numbers. That is your return on investment. Calculate the cost of subscription plus training time plus workflow disruption, everything that went into implementing that solution at your practice versus measurable benefits, not feel-good metrics, measurable benefits. If ROI is not clear by day 90, trigger your exit strategy. No extensions without a written justification. Have that rule. So again, a study by IBM found that AI pilot programs showing spectacular early returns of around 31% settle into a more realistic 7% as they scale. So the honeymoon always ends. Your 90-day test gives you structured decision points, so you are not stuck paying for something that looked great in the demo but failed to deliver. So looking at this, what are the sweet spots for dental practice? So again, this is from what we have seen so far, but this landscape is quite dynamic, so it may change in the next few months, few years, but at the moment, these are the common sweet spots: radiographic analysis and caries detection that matches or exceeds the clinician's accuracy. So multiple systematic reviews now confirm AI caries detection achieves high sensitivity and specificity. Sensitivity being how many times did it identify when caries was present? And specificity is how many times did it correctly identify caries as not present when it wasn't present? So that has become so prevalent in other markets using AI for radiographic analysis. So that could be a sweet spot. For example, the ADA, the American Dental Association, invested directly in Pearl AI's dental platform in late 2024. So the global dental AI market is projected to grow from about 500 million to about 3 billion by 2034. So that's a good area. And appointment management and no-show reduction. So whether it's smart reminder driven, AI-driven smart reminders, or AI-driven attendance predictions. So if they do deliver 25 to 40% improvement, that's what they have seen in other markets. So that is, again, a good area to look at. Claims and recalls processing. That is the admin grind. HICAPS claims, CDBS processing, DVA paperwork, recall management, referral letters. So they are high volume, rule-based, repetitive. So this is where AI genuinely earns its keep in an Australian practice. Not glamorous, but where your team's time is being burned. So notice the pattern. The wins are specific, measurable, and targeted at repetitive tasks. Nobody's doing a keynote about claims processing. No one is telling you your recall letters will be written or processed perfectly by AI, because it's not glamorous. But that's where the real money is. And there are areas in most cases that AI should not be touching. They are reserved for humans. Treatment discussions, empathy, clinical judgment, complaints, they need that human touch. Yeah, one day AI may get to that point, but when it comes to that, I would still, whether it's in 10 years' time or today, I would say that human touch is quite important, not just for a dental practice. I think us as humans, that is an important point. Okay, let's look at some sort of a selection criteria that we can use. Integration over isolation. Does it work with your existing PMS, imaging software, and workflows? Or does it create another silo? So studies have found, again, a particular study by MIT has found that technology alignment with existing workflows is the #1 predictor for success. And number two, this goes for any product, but let me just reiterate that for AI products. Evidence over promises. Ask your vendor for a case study from a practice similar to your practice in size and context. Australian references are preferred. If someone says, our US clients love it, doesn't mean all that much, because the markets can be different. So ask for Australian practice evidence, and then support over sales. So this is what happens. What happens after you sign? do you get that support? Is there onboarding, training, ongoing support, or does the salesperson vanish? Remember the finding we talked about early, only about 130 of thousands of vendors claiming AI agentic capabilities actually deliver genuine autonomy. The rest is agent whitewashing. So something to keep in mind, the demo is the best it will ever look. Ask for references that you can actually call. Ask what their churn rate is. If they won't tell you, there you have your answer. Now, with all this in mind, I have a challenge for you. I call it your AI audit challenge. Take your time this week or pick your week, but let's say I would like to think that you would get onto this straight away. So I have done that in my professional and personal AI use. List every tool and subscription you or your practice pays for. Circle the ones you use daily. That gap between what you pay for and what you actually use on a daily basis is the money on fire. That is your first saving. And let's say you've got that underway, and then this month, quantify your biggest pain point. Pick your single biggest operational pain at your practice. Use the problem priority matrix. Quantify the cost. Write a problem statement. And then this quarter, if and only if the scope assessment that we have discussed, which I will share with you in a minute, says you are ready, pilot one solution using a 90-day reality test. One, not three, not five, one. So I want you to leave this webinar with one commitment, not five, one again. If you're not currently using any AI tools, that is perfectly fine. Don't let anyone tell you you are behind. Being deliberate is not the same as being slow. So I have that commitment to doing this. And on the next slide, I have a takeaway toolkit. Scan this QR code. We've got a few things, everything I talked about here in editable format. The scope assessment, the vendor checklist, the 90-day template, all of it. Use them. Share them with your practice manager. Revisit them in 3 months. This is not theory. These are tools that you can sit down with on, let's say, the next day or on next week, Monday morning. You can sit down with your team and your practice manager to put into practice. So the final word I have for you is AI is not going to save your practice. Solving real problems will. Stop buying solutions, looking for problem to solve. Thank you very much for joining us for this on-demand webinar. If you are walking away with some knowledge or understanding of looking at the reality of AI implementations today, that is what we were looking for. And then we have achieved what we wanted to with this time that you spent with us. Very much appreciate your time that you spent watching this. And on behalf of all of us at Centaur, we hope that you will use AI, enjoy using AI in a way that works for your practice persona. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sean. That was fantastic. Some really great insight there, some practical takeaways, specifically with that toolkit. I will mention that the toolkit will be available on the page, the landing page, via some links there. They'll be down the bottom below the recording. And we thank you, Sean, for your time, resharing that content with us again. I found it really, really valuable, and I think a lot of our practices will too. Until the next one, thank you, everyone. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Thanks.